Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I seem to be right on time. I hope everyone's having a great Wednesday so far. I'm just trying to get everything set up and get our speaker here, Jayne. I'm going to unmute you. Hold on a second. Perfect.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful.
Hopefully everyone else can hear too. I'm just going to, great. So people are starting to join, which is fantastic. It's 8 o'clock, so I can officially say good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. While I get everything started, I'm going to share this on Facebook so that it can be live there as well. I would love to know a little bit about everyone who is joining us. So please tell us, you know, your business or what city you're calling from or you're logging in from. We'd love to know a little bit more about our attendees. So I'm going to share. So Jayne, you should be able to see everything I can see. So you should be able to see the chat boxes as well as the participant boxes. I'm just going to share this in the meantime, just to get it all started. Just give me a few minutes.
I need to grab a pen. Okay. Yeah, if everyone wants to say hello in the chat box, and we'll know that it's not just me and Dwayne here.
Yeah, people are logging in. That's excellent. It will probably only take me about another minute just to get the live started on Facebook. So we'll be taking questions throughout the webinar, and I'll try to monitor questions in the chat box as well as in the Q&A box, because that is enabled as well, and on social media. So okay. All right, now we can go live. And we are just about good. It's uploading. All right, we are good to go. So let me try to say hello to everyone. So people aren't shy. So good evening again. I'm Dwayne Peel, and I'm the owner of Canadian Small Business Women, and we try to have these wonderful, informative webinars just about twice per month. Now, we try not to take up too much of your time because we know it's in the evening, especially it's really nice out, and everyone usually likes to maximize that sunshine time. I'm not going to lie to you, right after this webinar, I'm going back outside because I live for the warmth. So do we have to mute ourselves? Someone's asking, do we have to mute ourselves, or are you muting all the lines? So all lines are muted except for the panelists. So myself and Jayne's lines will be open. If you'd like to communicate with us, you can always just type in the chat box there, or you can type in the Q&A section if you'd like to ask a question or post a comment that will only go to the panelists, not to the attendees. Hopefully I answered your question, Alicia or Alicia. I don't know which way to say it. I don't want to butcher anyone's names. Yeah, so we are out of, at least I am out of Mississauga, Jayne's out of Toronto, and she's going to help us with something that we all seem to have problems with, and it's time management. I know sometimes we all think that we are very efficient. I know I'm efficient when I'm focused, but it's a matter of focusing and making sure that things get done. So I have my pen and paper ready, and I am really ready to write down notes because I need to learn to manage my time a little bit better. And I know a lot of times I get caught up in that social media rabbit hole. It's a great rabbit hole, but
it is, but the but is the important.
The but, because I do find myself like this a lot.
Yeah.
Going through Instagram a million times a day.
Yes.
So yes, enough of me. I'm going to hand it over to Jayne, and I will share my screen so that people can get to hear you speak and see you speak and see your presentation at the same time. There's no need for people to just look at me the entire time. So Jayne, it's all on you now.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you, Dwayne, so much for inviting me to participate here. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share some of the things I've learned in my journey over time, and so I'm just okay. Yeah, Dwayne referred to the weather, and so we want to make sure that we keep things on time and keep. Let people get out right at the top of the clock, as we have promised. I do look forward to sharing some of the key things that I have learned in my journey with you to help you become more productive. And, really when it comes down to it, anyone who has been to one of my workshops or seminars before, they know that I give a lot of tangible strategies and tactics. So I really hope everyone will walk away with one or two things at least that they can immediately try and implement in their daily routine to help them be more productive. What I don't want you to do is just sit here for an hour and kind of go, oh, that's interesting, and then you don't change anything, because then the hour will have been a waste of your time, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure everyone has gotten some value out of this. So hopefully everyone will get something of value, and I've referred to my handout, my top time management tips. You will be getting that as part of the recording. When Dwayne sends out the email with the recording after this, she will attach that to that email, so you'll be able to get that, and it'll have my contact information. And if you have any questions, please just reach out, email me, and that'll be good. So let's get going. If we can go down a slide, please. And so you might ask, why am I doing this webinar? Well, I've been an entrepreneur now for about 5 years, and I've spoken with a lot of entrepreneurs, and many have some very unique challenges. Sometimes they're in startup mode, sometimes they're well established, but everyone has the same challenge. And it's basically, I don't have enough time to do everything I have to do as an entrepreneur or as a professional. So this webinar is for you if, you page down.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have enough time to get everything done, down one more. Yeah, are you feeling at all stressed by your to-do list? Do you feel like, tearing your hair out kind of people there?
Yes.
Down one more, if you feel too much stress. So sometimes people get so stressed, they turn into the people in this slide. We know that when people are way too busy and they're feeling stressed, we know it impacts your health. It reduces your resistance to disease. You don't sleep as well. It can affect your relationships, and it makes you less productive overall. And it's a vicious cycle then. I can't sleep at night because I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that. And I have so many things to do. And then you're tired, and then you don't work very well, and you're not effective. And then you sleep even less well, and the list gets even longer and longer. And so, we really want to help with that. Slide down. And, if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a professional working for someone else or an entrepreneur, things can be crazy. But especially when you're an entrepreneur, things can be even a little bit more different and a little bit more challenging. So when you're an employee, you may have too much on your plate, and, you may not enjoy everything you have to do, right? Just kind of like that boring, oh, okay, I got this job to do. But when you're an employee, if you go down, yeah, you know what you have to do. You generally know how to do it. You know when it has to be done by. You know who to work with. You might have a team. You know the resources available. There's money available. You have processes. You have toolkits. And you go in and you can do your job. And you can go home at the end of the day and feel that you got something done. And the big thing is you know what you have to do. So as this slide shows, as an entrepreneur, you feel completely alone when you're owning your own business. You're walking that tightrope. You don't even have the bar to balance you, right? She just has her arms out. She doesn't even have the bar. You don't know so many of the things that you know as an employee, especially when you're just starting out. There's a huge amount of extra complexity. And as an entrepreneur, you may find it challenging to manage yourself for the very first time. So you don't have a boss telling you what to do. And that can be a challenge because you're the boss. So if you go down one more slide, you have endless questions, and they're either no answers, or you talk to different experts and they give you contradictory answers about what you should do. You don't know what way to turn. And I often hear that you have to wear too many hats. And that's really because as an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out, you have to wear them all. You have to do everything. And it's kind of like you have to invent the roadmap for your trip, as well as build the car, drive the car, fix the car when it breaks down, gas up the car. You're responsible for absolutely everything. And that can really, really take a toll on you. And so when it comes to starting up and running a business, when you're an entrepreneur, you're often making it up as you go along. It's like taking this pile of Lego bricks that I have, and you want to build it into the house. And if you go down one more slide, the instructions aren't included. There is no instruction manual for building a business. So your to-do list looks like this. It simply says so many things. It has so many things on it. You can't even begin to write them down. And one of the things that you have to do on your to-do list is to write a to-do list, but you just can't find the time to do it. And you see a lot of other entrepreneurs being successful, and they're able to juggle all the things that they have, the roles they have to fulfill, and the tasks and their priorities, and they have a personal life. They get exercise, and they take care of their kids or their aging parents or their family. And you wonder, how do they manage it without going crazy? Well, they have figured out some of the ways to manage their time better. And so if you go down one more slide, that is my objective today. So take you from time being maybe an enemy to time being your friend, and really getting control of that list. People understand intellectually that they will be better off if they're better at managing their time. But everyone still gets bad at it. Even experts can be bad at it at times. So when you are better at it, you know that you will get more done, and it's that, the cycle becomes more and more positive rather than more and more negative. And you'll see on this chart, I'm asking you to make some changes in your habits. What I don't want you to do is make radical changes to start. You need to make a small change, because change is hard. When you look at the pictures on this graph, when you're trying to change habits, you start with something called uninformed optimism. So that's the first picture on the left. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna start planning my time better. And then you get into it and you go down, your mood goes down and your energy level goes down. And you get to the stage called informed pessimism. That's the second picture, where the woman's kind of going like this. And you're going, oh, this is really hard. I want to give up. I can't do this. I can't make this change. If you stick at it, and if you get support, and if you talk to a friend and get them to help you make the change, whatever the habit change is, you can get to that third picture where it's kind of like, I think I can do this, because you start to see some positive results. You stick with it, and then you get to that picture in the top right corner where it's like informed the habit's entrenched, it's completion. You're happy. It's like, okay, I've now implemented this habit. And what I want everyone to do today is to think about, as they're implementing some of the things that they're going to take away from today, it's going to be tough at times. And you're going to have days when you don't do your plan, or you don't do whatever it is we talked about. And that's okay. Just get back to it the next day. Don't be scared that I'm going to ask you to do something that's totally going to change how you're going to do your work. We're going to take some small steps. And so what we promised in the advertising for this, what I'm going to share today is, first of all, it's a condensation of a much larger training session. I'm going to focus on some really actionable things. So we're going to talk about mental barriers to time management, the number one principle for time management, four keys to time management success, and the top 3 tactics to avoid procrastination. I'm going to start, I'm going to give you a little bit about my story. So go down one more slide. Everything I'm talking about today, either I do myself or clients of mine do. So I know it works. It's not just theory. I had a long corporate career. I thought I was organized. I thought I was able to get most of the important work done. But, I always felt pulled. I always felt like I wasn't able to focus on what was really important. When I was at work, I was thinking about home. When I was at home, I was thinking about work. And when I thought about it, when it came right down to it, a lot of what I was doing weren't things that were really important to me. They weren't really my priorities, and they weren't really helping me get to where I wanted to go and get what I wanted out of life. Then I left my corporate career and I took some time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I love the fact that I could spend time with my kids, helping with homework and really helping with the homework, not thinking about the meeting at 9 a.m. the next morning that I hadn't prepared for yet, make Halloween costumes, things like that. And I was really able to focus. And I really learned that focus, and Dwayne, you mentioned this at the beginning, focus is so critical to managing your time and getting done the things you need to get done. So we're going to be talking about some ways to focus more. Then I started my business as a business coach, and I experienced a lot of the challenges that I referred to earlier. And I had the struggles that everyone's struggling. And I started over time to figure things out. And so I really wanted to be able to share some of those things. And so part of what I do with my clients is I help them be more productive so that they can, when they're more productive, they can build the business they want. And if you have the business that you want and it's being run in a way that gives you time and it's earning you the revenue you want, then you have the time and the money to do all the personal things you want. So you're able to accomplish both your professional and your personal goals because you're running your business more effectively. So down one more slide. This is a quote from Peter Drucker, who's a well-known author and expert on all things professional. Until we can manage time, we can manage nothing else. And I love this quote because it reminds me that time is really the only currency we have available to spend in our life. That's it. It's when we use our time effectively that we then have money and friendships and good relationships, etc. So if we go down one more slide, I want everyone to take just a moment and answer this question for yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how effective are you at managing your time? Where 1 is terrible and 10 is that you are a master. And feel free to put it in the chat box if you're willing to share, but at least on a piece of paper, jot down a number. And generally we'll see when I do this webinar and this workshop, we'll see some people who are above 5, a lot of people who are below 5. The objective is that, we're going to get you a little bit higher. So we have a 7. That's a 7 is a very nice, respectable score. It means you are managing your time fairly well, but there's still opportunity for improvement. Does anyone else want to, I don't know, Dwayne, are there any other numbers? I see
someone says 5, I guess.
Yes, that's okay, that's okay. And scales are always, personal to people. Someone's 3 might be someone else's 7. So it's really just to give you an opportunity to think, okay, I'm actually, unless you're giving yourself a 0, you're actually, even if you give yourself a 1, there's probably something you're doing okay. So don't beat yourself up if you're not perfect at this. We're going to get you better. So thank you for sharing there. If we go down one more slide, I want people to think a little bit more. And again, feel free to answer this question in the chat box. We can have a little bit of a discussion. What is one of your biggest time wasters? Social media, that's the one where, and TV, yes. Those are the things where it's so easy to get sucked in, and you do it because you enjoy it. We have emails, we have another social media.
Email.
Yeah, and so, we're getting lots of good social media comments. The thing with social media is it's fun, right? And if you post something and when someone likes what you posted, you get a rush, right? It's, someone out there loves me. And, gardening, right, gardening. So things like social media, gardening, watching TV, it's something you get some pleasure out of. Things like email, sometimes it's, you do that, it sucks you in. There are so many emails. And by answering emails, you feel like you're being productive because, I got back to person A and B and C and I did this and I did this. But it can take a lot of time. And what sometimes is going on in the background is email is a time filler and you're using it subconsciously to avoid a bigger piece of work that you don't want to do. So quite often we use these time wasters to avoid doing something that's really going to help us accomplish our goals. There's a comment in the chat, not even so much enjoyment there. It's where I'm supposed to connect with potential customers and raise awareness about what I do. Excellent point, Diane. So social media is an important piece of building awareness for your business and connecting. So you may advertise on social media. You may just be posting things a lot, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn posts, and that's an important part of your business. The problem is you then can get sucked in. Dwayne, you referred to a rabbit hole, right? You get sucked in and you start looking at posts and reading things that aren't actually helping you accomplish what you need to accomplish. And so you do your post on Facebook, and then you see, oh, Susan said blah, 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 and Dwayne said this, and this is really interesting, and Jayne said this, and Joe said that. And you start reading a lot of posts, and you're replying, and there's value to that interaction. But an hour and a half later, you're still doing that, and you haven't accomplished the big project you had for the day. And oh yes, we have a yes, exactly. So one of the tactics here, this will come up later, is set a timer. You'll go and you'll do social media for the 10 minutes or the 15 minutes that you need to do it for to get the business goals accomplished, or if you have or a personal goal where, I want to update people. And then when the timer goes off, you shut it down and you go back to your other work and the other things you have to do, so you don't totally get sucked in. I have a client who recently disabled Facebook so that she wouldn't be tempted to go in.
What?
I know. She disabled Facebook because she wasn't needing it for her business. So her presence, her internet presence would be more through LinkedIn. And she would just end up chatting with friends for an hour and a half or 2 hours and get nothing done. And it was cutting into billable hours. She wasn't getting work done that she could get paid for. So she disabled Facebook. It's a gutsy thing, and I'm not recommending everyone do it, but it is one strategy. So let's move on. Go down one more slide. Time management's hard. We know intellectually that excellent time management's a desirable skill, but we get a lot of people showing up on webinars like this. People always say that it's a challenge. So what are some of those mental barriers? I tried to remove the app from my phone, but I needed the app for other apps to run. Oh, okay. I can't help with that one.
Yeah, because if you use your login for Facebook to log into other apps, then you can't delete Facebook.
So just try not to go onto the Facebook page and turn off notifications.
Yeah, turning off notifications, that's very good.
Yeah. So yes, and they can be business related. So go down one more slide and we'll talk about the first mental barrier to good time management. And it's no spontaneity. It's the belief that if I'm really structured and rigid in how I plan my time, I won't be spontaneous. And I'm going to be so organized that I won't have any freedom. And then I won't be creative and I won't be able to do what I need to do. Can't go with the flow. But the reality is if you're disorganized, it's more like panic, right? And so when you get that stress, then you can't be effective. The reality of organization, and when we talk about calendaring and planning, is that if you carve out time and if you are organized, then it gives you flexibility to go with the flow. And within your organized plan, you can switch things around if you need to. So if you really, really have a pounding headache and you cannot do those cold calls, then do something else that you had planned for the day that you are able to do. But move the time you had planned for cold calls. Don't just cut it out. So you then can, on a daily basis, move things around as long as you're moving them and not totally deleting them. So that organization, though, gives you the structure to know, I need to do A, B, and C today. Down one more, and another barrier is negative mental programming from your parents or when you're growing up, whatever. You've been told you're a messy person, you're always late. You've been told, you never finish anything you started. You've heard these messages, and when you become an adult, you believe them, right? And so you unconsciously, you're thinking, well, I can't be organized because I've always been told I'm disorganized. And then this is linked with the next one. We go down one more, is the self-limiting beliefs that come with that negative self-concept and the negative mental programming. So you believe that you don't have the ability to be good at time management, that you're born this way. The reality is it can be learned. And so you can replace, if you go down one more, you can replace your own bad habits with good ones. And one more page down, and there, that sort of worked. We're going to help you break through these barriers. I wanted the hammer to come down. So we're going to be doing things we're talking about will help you break through those barriers. So the next slide, number one principle of time management. The things that matter most must never be at the mercy of the things that matter least. And Goethe was sometime in the 1700s. So people figured this out a long time ago. You have to know what you want to accomplish in order to manage your time effectively. And you shouldn't be spending your time on the things that really aren't important to you. So if we go down one more, that leads us to a discussion of goals. So think about, do you have written goals, or at least do you know in your head that if I asked you point blank, could you tell me what your business goals are and what your personal goals are? There's a lot of research out there, and different studies will show anywhere from only 3 to 10% of the population actually writes down their goals and goes through goal setting exercises. There's also research that shows that the income difference, and I realize income's only one measure of success and happiness, but the income difference between the people who write goals on a regular basis and really think hard about them, and the people who don't write their goals, who just coast through life, income difference can be 3 to 10 times. So the goal writers are making a lot more money. So as one measure of success, it indicates that writing goals can make a significant difference in your life. And that's because you know what you're going after, and you make decisions to help you accomplish your goals because you know what you want. So if we go down one more slide, let's think a little bit about how do you figure out your goals. And I'm going to highlight the approach here. It's part of this is an overview of what I have in my full program. But the first critical step is, knowing what do you want, dreaming about what you want in your life and your business, and really thinking, if I had this, I would be happy. If I had that, I would be happy. And, picturing the why. Why is it important? That's critical. Knowing the impact it will have on you, your family, your business. The why is what keeps you going. If anyone's listened to the Simon Sinek TED Talk, the why is what keeps you going when the times get tough, and the why is one of the things that really help prospects want to work with you. And so that keeps you motivated, and it really keeps it personal, because only you can build your goals, okay? They are by definition very personal. And you want your goals to be SMART. So they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, they need to be aligned with your values, they need to be realistic, and they need to be time-bounded. So it has to be, it's like, I want to earn X dollars. Let's say I want to earn $100,000 in my business by the end of 2019. And I know I can do that. I have some, realistic, I have some ideas of how I could do that. Okay. As opposed to, I want to make more money. You also then need to map out the steps that you need to take in order to accomplish that goal. So if it's growing your business and increasing your revenue, is there some new marketing you have to do? Do you need a new website? Do you need to hire a marketing expert or get help with social media? What is it that you need to do? And think really about when you want to accomplish those goals by. So that's the time-bounded piece. And all of this is critical, figuring out what the steps are and when they need to happen, because that is what leads to your to-do list that you're going to work on. Or if you go down one more slide, I call it my will-do list of important stuff, which is a bit wordy. So just my will-do list. The brain, anyone who's familiar with NLP, or just how working with your brain, programming your brain, language is extremely important. I call it my will-do list because I'm making then a very conscious commitment to myself, to the task, to the person the task is for, a client or whatever, that I will do these activities, as opposed to a to-do list is kind of like, well, all the things that I could do. So this is a strategy I use, and I have my own personal calendar that I've printed up that I use, and it says will do for each day and each week and each month. So let's go down one more slide, and I want everyone to take just a moment and think about what's the number one goal for your life or your business. Write it down. If anyone wants to share, that's awesome, but you don't have to. But think about, what's the one thing that if you could accomplish that would really, really make you say, I've done something good. I've done something that was really important to me. I'm going to take a sip of my tea while people take 30 seconds to think about that. And then you can work on later, set yourself some homework to work on this and write it really in the SMART format: specific, measurable, aligned with values, realistic, and time bounded. Okay. So if everyone's taken a little start at that, we will move on. So I do want you to then keep that in mind while we get right into the 4 keys for time management success. Okay. The first key, number 1, the next slide, is the calendar. So we're going to talk about how your calendar can be your most helpful tool. And I said I have I use paper and pencil. I tried electronic, and I need to use paper and pencil for the way my brain works. But really, okay, go down one more slide. There are a couple points here. So having one calendar for both personal and professional commitments, or at some point you're going to double book yourself. You'll forget. And some people, thank you for people who are sharing. There's making enough money in terms of goals, enough money to cover expenses and not dip into savings. That's an awesome one. Financial freedom. So those are great. I encourage you then after this to figure out what is the actual number that is tied to those. And I don't expect you to share the number. You may know it in your head. I don't expect you to share the number in the chat. But that's awesome.
And I guess I'm just interjecting. I'm sorry I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Semroth. I guess financial freedom, you have to define what that is for you. Mm-hmm. Everyone they define financial freedom differently.
And yes, it could be to cover basic living expenses, which is X dollars. It could be living expenses and a certain amount of savings. It could be, planning for retirement, planning for trips. What does that mean? So you really want to dig into that. Yeah. So Dwayne, that's an excellent point about defining what that really means. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing for those, because goals are personal, right? Yeah. So the calendar, having one calendar so you don't double book yourself, and keep it with you at all times. So if you have it with you, then whenever something comes up, you can immediately check your availability and make sure that you can do what you need to do, and you can decide what you need to work on. And so. Yes, goals, priorities. If your calendar has your goals and priorities that we've talked about here, and your will-do list in your calendar, mine's all on one page, it helps you decide what you will do, and really importantly, what you will not do when a request comes along. When you have the opportunity to say yes, because people like to say yes to things, you can look and say, I just can't do this. I just can't. So it really helps you to make those calls that you need to make. Let's go down one more slide. And if you think about your calendar as a block calendar, so you block out time for important personal and professional priorities. And so one thing is, if possible in your business, if it's possible, only answer email and phone calls 1 time per day, at most 2, sort of maybe right before lunch and right at the end of the day. Because then you are, during the rest of the time, able to focus on doing other work, and you're not constantly being interrupted. And then when you're in email mode, it's like, okay, I have an hour and I need to get through all these emails. And you can really focus and kind of bang, 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 get through the emails. So if you're constantly going back and forth, answer an email, do some work, answer an email, do some work, it really does not help you make the progress, because your brain's constantly switching back and forth. So that's the first key, is your calendar. The next key, if we go down one more slide, is all about setting priorities and thinking about, what's the most valuable use of my time right now at this minute? And so if you go down one more, here are some questions you can ask yourself to help you manage your list and your time. First is to think, do I need to do it at all? Do I need to personally do it? Or does anyone at all need to do it? Is there someone else who can do it? What happens if no one does this? Maybe there'll be no impact if this doesn't get done. In that case, don't do it. And then on the right hand, where they have the excellent, good, average, does it need to be done perfectly? What if I do a 50% job or an 80% job? that might be good enough and might save me a significant amount of time that I can then put to other important priorities. So you can make your choice of what you choose to do, what you say yes or no to, as well as, and also how well you choose to do it. So it can help you accomplish more of some of the other important things that you have to do. Another really good tool is the urgency versus importance grid. And if you've heard of this, then great. And if you use it, great. Some people have not heard of it, but it's really thinking, when you look at this grid, it's taking an on a scale, thinking with how important is something, important ones at the top and not important tasks would be at the bottom. And over on the right, how urgent is something, and over on the left, how, things that are not urgent. That top right quadrant are things that are urgent and important. And those are the things that you should work on first every day, because those are the things that are going to have the biggest impact and are going to and need to be done quickly. But you have to make sure that you're not forgetting the top left of that. So these are things that are important, longer term projects. They're not urgent. And I like to say they're not urgent yet. If you don't work on them, they will become urgent. And generally, what happens when things do become urgent, we rush, we panic, and we don't do as good a job as when we have a bit more time to think. So making sure when you have your block calendar and you block out time to work on projects, that you have time to work on some of those that are important but not yet urgent. Okay, they're things that are really going to help you get where you want to go. Anything that's below the line that is not important, you have to try not to do them, because they're not important. They're not going to make a difference. We have a question, my biggest issue, how much is good enough? Okay. Yes. And sorry, in the question around, is 50% good enough? Is 80% good enough? Diane, you can test that. If you're not sure when to stop with perfection, just try it sometimes. Do a little bit less of a perfect job and see what happens. If you get the same result, then you know it worked. It is a little bit of learning and testing it out, and test it first with things that don't have huge consequences, right? Aren't as risky. And it really is something that if you practice the skill of not being a perfectionist, you will get better at it over time, and you will learn when you do have to be a perfectionist and when you can cut back a little bit. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I didn't think about testing it. Thanks. Okay, great. I'm glad that helped. Okay. Next slide. Key number 3 is planning. So, thinking a little bit about how can you plan? So if we go down one more, it's really all about doing daily, weekly, and monthly planning and having that will-do list. So we've talked about, you have your goals and you've created a list of things, all of the things in the world you could do, right? We then, key number 2 was prioritizing, and you figured out these are the ones that are most important and I really should work on first, and these are less important. And then thinking about, well, what are the things I need to do this month or next month, and having within your system, being able to write down, okay, I need to do this in August, I need to do this in September, and you capture what needs to be done for the month. And each week, so at the beginning of each month, you take the month things and you transfer them week by week. And at the beginning of each week, you take those and you say, okay, I have to do this Monday, I have to do this Tuesday, I have to do this Wednesday. And it sounds onerous. And at the beginning, I'll be honest, it's pretty onerous until you get in the habit of it. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes at the most once you get in the habit of doing that planning. And whenever you have something that you say, okay, I need to put this on my will-do list, you figure out, is it on a day of the week, this week I need to do it? Is it sometime next week? Is it next month? And you write it down and capture it. Once you get in the habit, it gets a lot easier. And it really is at the end of every day, you take a look and say, okay, well, I didn't quite finish this, so I better finish this first thing tomorrow morning. So that's the planning piece. The next step to that is, okay, what days you want to do them in, is blocking them in your calendar. And so, marking out time every day where you will work on some of your priorities. And on the next slide, it is every day try to do at least one small thing that's going to help you accomplish your big goals. Some days you'll get some really big things done, And some days, just because there will be life that happens that you have to take care of, getting just one little thing done means you've made a step forward. So that's a bit about planning. Key number 4 is focus and avoiding distractions. You've got your list, you've prioritized it, you know that you're going to do this on Monday from 9 to 11, and from 11 to 12 you're going to work out, and at 12 you're going to eat your lunch, and at 1 o'clock, and you've got your plan, but it's so easy to get distracted. We talk a little bit about social media, and if you're home-based, you look around, it's like, oh, there's a pile of laundry there, and there's dirty dishes there. It's so easy to get sucked into doing those other things that also need to get done at some time. So on the next slide, I have a few, four tips here for how to help you keep focus. So one is turn off your phone and notifications on your computer, at least for a short time. So it might be just for the next half hour, I'm just going to turn them all off. There are apps that can help you do this. And when you receive the handout, the follow-up handout, I have some apps listed there that some of my clients have found very helpful, and I've found helpful. So that, for a short period of time, you're not getting the bing, 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 bing going on. And you can then actually think about the work you need to do. Use your calendar, block out time, and commit to the time. Really think about the fact that this is time for you to do your work. It's not time to help other people with their priorities. If you're in an environment where there's a lot of noise and distractions, putting up a do not disturb sign can be helpful. Explain to people why you're doing this. Say, I need 20 minutes to finish this piece of work. So if you have any questions, can you please hold them? Unless it's a real emergency, but otherwise, can you please hold your questions? And I'd be happy to talk to you after I get this piece of work done. And quite often what happens when I've done that, and clients of mine have done that, people have then said to them, oh, that's a wonderful idea, I'm going to do that too. And they start to create a bit more of a culture around them of it's okay to put up a do not disturb sign, and then they respect that.
I'm going to interject and show you some really awesome ones that you can order from Vistaprint, and I'll throw it in there now that they have a great sale this week. Use the promo code SAVEBIG and you get 50% off. But they gifted me with a lot of these.
Ah, wonderful.
Cool. They say, do not disturb business owner at work. So
that's wonderful.
Tags. And I don't know how much they cost, but I'm assuming they're pretty inexpensive, but you can brand your own.
Yeah. and if you have any PowerPoint skills, you can make a PowerPoint slide and just print that out and put it on. So but the Vistaprint ones look very nice, very nice. I did not know they had that. I'm writing that down. Thank you. Okay. The fourth one here is setting a timer for distractions. So those time wasters we talked about, the social media, etc. Really just to say, okay, I'm only going to do this for 10 or 20 minutes. And then you need to stop. And we have a comment. Oh yes, that's just my goal. One little thing at the same time as taking care of my toddler all day. Oh, okay, yeah. When you have a toddler, that's toddlers don't understand do not disturb. That's another whole workshop how to do that. But hopefully the toddler still naps occasionally. And in a co-working space, it help cut the usual distractions. Putting on headphones, yeah. And I'm a member of a co-working space, and there are signs up now. If you have both in, it means do not disturb. Nice. If you have one out, it means you can disturb for a very short period of time. If you have both out, it means you're open for chats and that they can disturb. So we've learned that culture. If someone has both headphones in, you don't disturb them.
Yeah, I just found that out we had Charlotte from
yes, that's right,
Village Hive.
That's my co-working space.
Yeah, so she was telling us she did a webinar a few weeks ago, and she was telling us about that, and I thought, oh, I didn't even know that.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a matter of explaining, setting rules and expectations, and then people sign in. Oh, and so Diane says, that's why I started my business, co-working for parents to get some focused time. Okay, so Diane, your target is people who have toddlers or young kids around. That's awesome. Okay.
Wow.
There's so many interesting businesses out there. And yes, definitely good luck with that, Diane, because I know there's definitely a need. I'm fortunate that my kids are old enough now they don't need me. But could I pause for a minute? Are there questions, anything in the Q&A, Dwania, or anything?
There's nothing in the Q&A. I think, well, yes, there is online.
Okay.
No, financial freedom and make a difference. That was a response to what your goal was.
Yeah. Perfect. And one of the things on the make a difference, I realize in a chat or something like this, you're only going to put a few words, but you really want then to have that and make a difference by helping X, who, to move from bad situation to better situation, or really kind of map out what that difference is that you want to make. And it could be making a difference for people in your family. It could be making a difference for people in third world countries. There are so many different levels of making a difference.
Or it could be making a difference for yourself. Considering yesterday was International Self-Help Day, sometimes we have to help ourselves first.
That is an excellent point, Dwania, because the reality is if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
Yes.
You just can't, right? You don't have what it takes. So awesome. Okay, let's go to the top 3 tactics for avoiding procrastination. People generally avoid procrastination because they have a big project and they don't know where to start, or it's something they really hate doing. So they procrastinate, right? And here's some tactics to help you think about how to actually get that work done. Salami slicing, a big project. So break it down into small, discrete pieces and only think about the one little piece you have to do first. So it could be a year-long project, but what's the one thing you can do today? And then tomorrow, what's the one thing to do tomorrow? So really breaking it down. Similar, but taking just a bit different approach. Instead of breaking it into discrete chunks of work, is breaking it into a discrete chunk of time. So 15-minute rule, only work for 15 minutes. And over time, you can make significant progress. And quite often what happens is you set the timer. It's like, okay, I'm only going to work on my books, my financials, sort out my receipts for 15 minutes. You kind of get into it. It's not actually as bad as you thought it was. And you're able to get more done than you thought you could get done. And you then feel good because you've made progress. And another way to help you is the whole feel good reward. Every time I look at this slide, I get hungry because I want one of those macaroons. But it's rewarding yourself when you accomplish a goal or accomplish a task that you've been avoiding. So if it's a small task, it's a small reward, right? So short break for tea and chocolate when it's been something small. For larger accomplishments, when you've gotten through a lot of those steps, give yourself a large reward. Entrepreneurs in particular, women in particular, are really bad at rewarding themselves and giving themselves that pat on the back that they deserve. And so if you've worked really hard and you've accomplished something really big, it's okay to take a few hours off and go shopping, read a book, go hiking, whatever. So think about when you're approaching a task, think about how can you reward yourself when you finish it. And the next slide is the bonus tactic for avoiding procrastination. There's a picture of a frog. There's a quote, if you eat a live frog first thing every morning, the rest of the day will be easy. So it's basically do the hardest task first. Once you get it done, you're going to feel a weight go off your shoulders. And the rest of the day is actually going to be a better day because you've gotten that awful thing done and you're making progress towards your goals.
So Diane has a question here.
Yes.
How would you shift your mind when you can't get started, when you know you won't have the time to get it done?
How would you shift your mind when you can't get started, when you know you won't have the time to get it done? Okay, I'm not 100% sure I understand the issue there.
So I guess she's feeling overwhelmed because she knows she cannot get the task done. So how does she stop thinking of that big picture and pull everything apart and try to get started? I guess it is a mind shift, but it's how.
It is a mindset shift. And so it's saying, if I can do 2 minutes, what can I get done in 2 minutes? What can I get done in 3 minutes? What is the one tiny little thing? And so sometimes, so I've had discussions with clients sometimes about we've been talking about their marketing, and they have all these things in their marketing plan. And one client, for example, wants to place an ad in the newspaper for his services, and he's afraid to place the ad in the newspaper. It's like, for a variety of reasons, but it's like, okay, all I want you to do this week, all I need you to do is get information on what an ad will cost, what some of the options are for different sizes of ads. That's all you have to do. And then once that's done, then the next time say, okay, now we take the next step, and now start to make the decision, what would the ad look like, and can kind of work through that. If you're getting distracted, it's really finding, it's using your co-working space, is locking yourself in a little room with nothing else on, and say, I'm not going to let myself out of this room until I get this one thing done. I don't know if that helps, but everyone's challenges are a little bit different, and it's hard in a general sense without knowing a little bit more about what the challenge is to be able to say how exactly to do that. One thing I will be offering is, if anyone wants to set up a call with me, email me, we'll set up some time and we can talk more about the challenges you're facing.
We do have another question.
Yes.
It says, I use to-do lists, blocking of time, shutting down emails and other notifications. However, most of the time, I still feel like I'm running around like a headless chicken and not accomplishing my task. What do you suggest?
So the question then is, you're doing things that are good in order to help you, but there's some reason that you're still not doing what you're supposed to do. So I'm not sure.
Prioritizing, maybe
it's prioritizing. It's
doing all the other things. You're not feeling like you're doing anything because you're not prioritizing the things that are most important to you.
Yeah, it's still exactly doing that. I think that's the issue. So it's not having done the prioritizing to say, okay, now I've freed up some time and I'm going to focus. What is the one most important thing? So it's the question on the next slide, Dwayne, if you go down one, is what is the most important task on your list and when will you do it? So I do want people to think about what is the one thing that if you did it tonight or tomorrow, that would have the biggest difference, make the biggest difference in your life. It's quite often something that people are avoiding. But think about what is it that you could do and make a commitment to yourself when you're going to do it, because I want people to really commit to doing things that are going to move them forward. And so if you've, for that question, if you've cleared time, you've shut off notifications, and you have work time, it's being honest with yourself that I need to work on project A and I need to accomplish steps 1, 2, and 3 in this hour. And knowing that those are the things that will make a difference. So it is the prioritizing what goes on the list.
I usually, when I have important tasks and I need to get it done by a certain time period, depending on what the task is, I tell someone, because that holds me accountable. Because if I said to someone, you know what, I need to do this and I have to get it done by Saturday, I feel like now I'm committed.
Yes,
I must do it by
yep. And that is such an excellent point, because accountability, and I encourage people to get accountability partners. It can be a friend, and you might talk for 15 minutes once a week and just say, I'm going to do A, B, and C this week. Okay. And you're going to do D, E, and F. And then you talk next week. Did you do them? The odds of you accomplishing those tasks increases when you have made a verbal commitment to someone.
Yeah.
And when I do this workshop in person, I have people in the room turn to their partner and make a commitment out loud to something that they will do, and ask them if they're willing to follow up with each other in a week through email or phone, whatever works for them, to follow up and say, hey, did you do that thing you said you'd do? It's harder when it's webinar, but I encourage everyone to find an accountability partner of some kind.
So if you are looking for an accountability buddy, I can always find you one. So I think I do have a private Facebook page, and I would like to try to get everyone. And Jayne, I'll send you the link to join the page. Maybe you might facilitate or anything like that too. Because I think that it's important to have somebody who can hold you accountable. I do agree.
It can make so much difference to just getting the stuff done that you know you need to get done. So that'd be awesome if that can help people. Let's go down one more slide, and want to make a couple of final points. There we go. First is get enough rest and exercise, because they really do help you be more productive, and so you get more work done faster. You can't take care of other people and other things if you don't take care of yourself. And so I love the little picture of the kitty having a nap in the sun there. The second is that you are your most important client, and really thinking about yourself as your most important client is important. So to prioritize your work and your goals when you plan your day, and make sure you've blocked out time to work on what's important to you. There are going to be things, the reality of life is there are going to be things that you have to do, quite often the personal things that you wish you didn't have to do, but you just got to get them done, and so put them in. But when you block out time for yourself to work on things, and you get a request and someone asks if they can meet you at that time, you can say, I'm sorry, I have a meeting at that time. I can't meet with you then, so I can't help you. I can't do that, or I can't do it then. Maybe I can do it later, or maybe we can't meet at all, or we can meet later. But it keeps that time protected. They don't have to know that the meeting is with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's not relevant to them who your meeting is with. You're already booked. Alicia, when you say yes to others, you may be saying no to yourself. That is so exactly right. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be times when you have a meeting booked with yourself, and it's something where, okay, well, this person, if I meet with them, it will make a big difference in helping me accomplish my other goals, because if they hire me, there's revenue or whatever. Then the important thing is, don't just delete the meeting with yourself, but reschedule it. Make sure you continue to protect that time and continue to say yes to yourself. I love that. I love what you're saying there, Alicia, about, you want to make sure you're not saying no to yourself. So let's go down one more slide, and, asking yourself, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? If you take only one thing away from today, remember this question and then do that thing. And so one more slide. We talked about, I'm looking at the time, we talked about mental barriers, the important principle in terms of understanding what your goals are, 4 keys to time management success, the top 3 tactics to avoid procrastination. Those are all of the things we've worked through very quickly today. One more slide. I want everyone to think about at least one tactic that they will try and when they're going to try it. And I want them to commit to themselves. And if they have a friend that they can commit to, or if you want to put it in the chat box, make a commitment to what you will do. Because if you go down one more slide, if not now, when? If you don't make at least some small changes now, when are you going to make them? If you don't make the changes now, you're not going to see the kind of progress you want to see. And I really want people to be able to take something from today and make the progress and see the difference that they want to see. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you now think you are? 1 is still terrible, 10 is a master. Has anyone gone up? Do you think if you try a couple of these things, will you have gone up? Dwayne's saying 7.
I'm sticking with my 7.
Okay. We have an 8. That's good. And I know it's not proven, right? It's until you try it. Mm-hmm. We have a 7. Okay. Awesome. Good. So, thinking about this occasionally every now and then, just kind of go, oh, well, how would I rate myself today? How good was I today on it? And that can also help you make progress over time, because you have a metric to say, okay, today was really awful and I was a 2. Oh, now tomorrow, you give yourself a 5, and the next day you give yourself a 6, and you can see yourself making progress. So the next slide is if you want more help. If there are any resources you want, I have, you can get a complimentary copy of Brian Tracy's best-selling productivity ebook, Eat That Frog, which is what the quote is from. I have a newsletter. I give other workshops and webinars. If you want a Get Things Done coaching session, complimentary session with me, or if you want to learn more about my Purpose-Driven Goals program, where I really dig a lot more into this, you can either email me directly, or I'm going to put this
If you can put the link in the chat box.
That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to copy.
Actually, what I will do is I will also copy this slide.
Perfect.
Email to all the registrants. Oh, perfect. You have the link.
So I've got, so it's in the chat, but yes. And so when you get the recording with the handout, if you go to that link, it'll have my email. You can email me directly. If you go to that link, it'll just be a little checkbox. It's a Survey Monkey. If you want any of those things, and then give me your email address, and I will get those things to you. So if you want to, learn any more. And so the last thing really is, does anyone have any more questions?
Or comments?
Yes. Yeah.
I know I wrote something down, and I'm actually going to quote you on this many times over. You'll see it on good old social media.
Yay! Wonderful.
You said, time is the only currency we have to spend in life.
Thank you.
That is so true.
Thank you, Dwayne. Yes, it is really all there is, right? Because it's with our time that we get everything else done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just like, I think I look at, all these commercials that you see around like Mother's Day and Father's Day, and it's always like you see these kids paying their executive daddy $1 for an hour of his time. So yes, time is that currency.
Well, exactly. Yes, it's so true. That's why we need to spend it well. Yeah. So that's definitely true. So any other questions or comments? I know we're right at 9 o'clock, so I'm able to stay on a little bit longer if people have questions, but obviously if people need to drop off, they need to do what they need to do.
Oh man, this was fantastic.
Well, thank you.
I really am driven to bring my number up to an 8.
Yay, good. Well, and I'm happy to check in with you, Dwayne, to see if you're making progress on that.
I need to put down the phone.
Yeah.
And I need to schedule those times to start, pulling away from, I like working from the television because it kind of, brings me down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm not productive when I do that. So I need to focus. I need to realign some things. I'm going to be an 8 by the end of August. You are.
Awesome. All right. I will check in with you at the end of August.
See, that was a goal I set, and I set it in front of all of you. So now I have to do it.
Yeah. And you can't just say that you're an 8 because you said you would be an 8.
No.
It has to actually be that you feel you've made progress.
I'm pretty honest. So if I went, I'm an 8, my face will go, no, you're lying.
Yeah. Oh, and Andrew says, I need to estimate the real time for each activity. That's a really good point, because people often underestimate the amount of time it actually takes to accomplish a task.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I didn't mention is build in flex time every day. If you can build in 10 to 20% open time in your day, then emergencies come up or something took longer or was more complicated, then you've at least got some flex that you can play with. So that's a way to help you with that.
If you do those little, I know this happens to me a lot. So I will say, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 3 hours updating social media and website about my event coming up.
Yeah.
And I think I can do everything in 4 hours. But then 6 hours roll around and I realize that, okay, I'm not just updating content. When I update the image, I have to now go and find all the logos associated, then embed it, then make all the different sizes. And I'm like, oh, I didn't calculate all that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I am going to start doing those little infographic bubbles and just writing out everything that's a part of that. I think what is it called? Like wheel and spoke or something like that, where everything is connected to that one task. So I know exactly what I have to do.
And that is a really good way that you are systematizing the work you have to do and making it a little bit more mindless, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit less of having to think about, oh yeah, I need to remember to do this and do this and do this and do this, because it's all there in one place.
Yeah.
And then when it is, okay, I have to update the website because I have a new webinar that I'm running. It's like, oh, right, it's going to take me this long because I have all these things I have to do.
And I'm very analytical though. So that's probably why everything I do, I'm very systematic, which is why I think I'm a 7. I'm probably better than that. but I am very systematic.
Good.
It's wash, rinse, repeat.
And I recall you have a full-time job on top of a couple of businesses. So you're a busy person.
I am. I'm efficient, but I can be better.
Everyone, the most effective and efficient people, there's always some room for improvement, right? So awesome. Were there any other questions coming through the schedule?
All right. Well, I am very thankful for today. I thank you so much, Jayne, for taking the time to share all this knowledge and to make us, I think the last half of our year is going to be so much better because we are all going to manage our time even better than we were before. Not saying that we weren't good, but we're going to do better. And, check in with us. I'll definitely be sending a link with the replay of the webinar along with a lot of details that Jayne is sharing with us. And I'll send that link to our Facebook group so that you can request to join, and I will put up some kind of image seeing who's interested in finding accountability buddies. And we can start connecting that way so that we can hold each other accountable. And maybe it's a great way also to find people who might have additional resources to help you with doing the task that you might have to do. Something that might have taken you 2 hours before, someone might know how to do it in 30 minutes and they might be able to share some insights. So
exactly. That's a great point. Sometimes there's going to be someone out there who has struggled with what you're struggling with and has figured out how to solve it and do it better. And so just find that people you can learn a lot just from talking to other people about how do they run their business? How do they get things done? How do they organize themselves? It's great.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me. This has been great fun.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. And I'll see you. I believe our next webinar is scheduled might be August 15th. I believe it might be. Don't quote me, but you'll see it on.
We'll see it. We'll see it on social media and the website. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.